Greetings. Today I want to continue to teach on the subject, you must be born again, to show you that the Bible is actually a book of mind science and that it is your spiritual autobiography that must be interpreted psychologically. And this will help to teach you how the Bible was used to keep many people in mental slavery when they believe that it is literal or secular history. And so those who believe in a literal man who existed thousands of years ago, they are actually in idolatry, looking outside of themselves. And so they are missing the story of salvation, which is true, the story of true salvation, which is actually self-realization. And that is why I'm going to continue from verses 16 of St. John chapter 3. And so this verse in St. John chapter 3 is a universal verse that almost all people all around the world quote, and it's a foundational scripture that they use to convince the masses of a man who existed 2,000 years ago, who loved them so much that he gave his life for them. But I want to say to you, it is you who will discover yourself. It is you who will find true unconditional love, and you will find that love and that power within yourself. It is you who will discover that you are the only begotten. So let me just read it and continue to read these other verses and explain them to you in an esoteric way, a psychological way, and a metaphysical way, so you realize that everything is mental, everything is psychological, and that everything is taking place within, and that this whole drama from the beginning to the ending of the Bible, it's a great psychological drama, and it's all taking place within the mind of man. Okay, so this new birth is actually a cleansing, it's a purging, it's a purification of the mind. Okay, and I'm going to show you that. So he says here in verses 16 of St. John chapter 3, and I'm reading from my Bible, the 66 books of magic. This is it right here, the Overcomer's Bible. If you haven't gotten this Bible, I definitely encourage you to get this Bible. Okay, there's no Jesus in this Bible. There's a blank space for you to write your name, which is I am. For that is the name of God from generation to generation. And you can never say I am and not referring to yourself. And you will feel the difference. And you will get a better understanding when you read this Bible and you write I am and include yourself and know that it's a story all about you. Now it says in verses 16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, when you realize that you are chosen out of millions and millions of sperms, then you will realize that you are the only begotten Son. You are the chosen one. You've been chosen to have this human experience. And because you've been chosen to have this human experience, it is because of love. Love that is unconditional. Love that wants to be expressed by having this human experience. And so God, being spirit, or the intelligence, which is your true essence, life, which is spirit, cannot enjoy the things of this physical world being in the form of spirit. Therefore, it must take on a body in order to experience certain things. For example, a spirit cannot tell you the taste of a chocolate cake. or the taste of ice cream, or the taste of chocolate. So it have to take on a body to have these new experiences. Okay? So when you decided to change form to have this human experience, you had to die. And that death is the sleep of amnesia, the sleep of forgetfulness. As I said before in another video, that you can never remember anything when you are a month old, or a week old, or 5 or 6 months old, or 12 months old, or 20 or 24 months old. Because you're born in a state of forgetfulness, a state of amnesia. And that's what I'm talking about. So for you to understand what it means to enjoy this world and to be a part of this world, you have to become the only begotten Son. And you have to come to that place of realization to believe that you are the only begotten Son. So he who believeth in his God self, he who believeth in the invisible, in his invisible self, his infinite self, he shall not perish for lack of knowledge. He shall not perish for lack of understanding. He will discover his eternal self. So it is all about you discovering that the life that is in you, it cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted. So you would not live your life in fear, but with the understanding that a birth is a death and a death is a birth. It's all the sleep of amnesia, and it's a dream. This life, it's a dream. And one day you must awake out of this dream. But it would take a cleansing. It would take a purification. Okay? Then it says in verse 7, for God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Each and every one of us on this planet, we survive by the things that we consume. And all of these things that we consume and use for our survival, they all were for us a thought, they were for us mental, they were for us psychological. We had to have this life in us to realize these things, to perceive these things. So everything is actually in our perception. Everything is actually downloaded within us. Everything that we are seeing on the outside, it is from within, and we're beholding that outer projection. And that is why we are not here to doubt, live in doubt and fear and guilt and shame. That's what it means when he says here that God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world. Many people live a life of condemnation because they would have developed guilt and shame from societal pressures that was put on them. And many of us our subconscious mind were programmed from a very young age to have certain belief systems, certain limiting beliefs about ourselves. But I'm here to say to you that you are limitless. So break all limiting beliefs and learn to accept your higher self. Okay? So if you would get rid of condemnation, then you would discover how much you are infinite being and your spirit having a human experience. Then it says in 18, he that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. Here it is speaking about the identity of knowing who you are. And when you do not know that you are God in flesh, and that you are the only begotten Son, you would live in doubt and fear, as I said before, and you would live in condemnation. So your belief system can condemn you or it can free you. It all have to do with your belief system. What do you believe about yourself? How do you perceive yourself? And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. When you speak about light, you have to realize that your soul is actually your light body, and your light body has come into this world through the sleep of amnesia, which is a death in the spiritual world and also in the physical world. And you're failing to accept the light. You're failing to accept your creative self, your imaginative self, your invisible self. And so when a man chooses to live from this physical realm and forget the spiritual realm, he's living in a place of darkness. He's living in a place of ignorance. And so the religious system and all the other systems have been set up is to keep you in that place of darkness, that place of not knowing who you are. Okay, so your deeds or your actions would be evil in terms of it would be going against yourself. You'll be doing more destructive things to yourself instead of doing more uplifting and creative things to yourself and to the rest of humanity. So evil is you living in a backward way, having no understanding of who you are. Okay, so let me go on to verses 20, where it says, "For everyone that doeth evil hated the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved." You see, whenever you come to the understanding of who you are and how you can use that power to achieve your every desire, you will no longer live in ignorance. You will no longer live in the mindset that you were raised to believe in. But instead, you'll be open-minded and you'll be willing to exercise your mind and prove for yourself that imagination creates reality. You'll be willing to prove for yourself that God in man is man's imagination and that God and man are one. You would now you'll be willing to come into unity with your outer self and your inner self, your spiritual self and your physical self. Okay, verses 21 says, "But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God." Okay, let me read back that. "But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God." This is a man coming to the realization that everything was first a thought and everything was first mental, everything was first psychological. This is a man coming to the realization that he's the Lord and Master of his destiny and that he can create his reality consciously. That is he understanding that there is only God in the world, that the very life that is within him is God, and everything is wrought of God, which means everything is being created by God. Okay, because when it comes to your God self, it is you understanding how the spiritual and psychological works together. It is you understanding the power of the mind. Verses 22, "After these things came I am and his disciples into the land of Judea. There he tarried with them and baptized." Here it is speaking about your thoughts and your higher self, because your disciples are actually your disciplines, your qualities, not 12 men following another man. No, you're the 13th one with 12 powers. And anywhere you go, they will follow you. Okay, because your thoughts, they will follow you wherever you go. But there must come a place of cleansing, a place of purification. So here it is teaching you that you must come to the realization of your thoughts being cleansed in order for you to have this new experience, for you to have this born again experience, for you to have a change of mindset. Because the only how you can break conformity and come into transformation is by the renewing of your mind. So you must get immersed into the truth that will wash you and cleanse you. Okay, and John also was baptized in Anna near to Salem, because there was much water there, and they came and were baptized. Here, the geographical places that they are mentioning here, they're teaching you of a place of peace, a place of happiness. Because you see, when you get yourself immersed in the truth, because the water represents the truth of knowing your true identity is your divinity, you would definitely come to a place of peace. You will definitely come to a place of satisfaction, because you will come to know that this life, as I said before, is all a dream, and you're here to know that you're an alchemist and that you can change or transmute energy into matter. Okay? And so when you start to put your power to work, your power, when it brings forth its manifestation, it will definitely convince you that you are the creator having a human experience. Okay? Then it says in verses 24, for John, now when you speak of John here, or John the baptizer, it is speaking of the physical man, the outer man. Okay, most of the body is water, and in this physical realm, we use most of our intellect in terms of we live more from the side of intellect. We live more from the left brain side instead of the right brain side. So we live more in the physical realm. So here John is speaking of your more intellectual self, your more physical self. Okay? And it says, verse 24, for John was not yet cast into prison. Let me read back, verse 23. And John also was baptized in Anon near to Salem, because there was much water there, and they came and were baptized. For John was not yet cast into prison. Then there arose a question between some of John's disciples and the Jews about purification. So you see, as I was saying here, it's all about purification. It's all about the mind. And when you speak about John's disciples and the disciples of the Jews, many of us would face times in our life where we are, like, say, double-minded, and we have questioning thoughts within ourselves. And some might be religious, and some might be intellectual. And so we have to battle there, because the greatest battle that you will ever face, it will definitely take place in the mind. So there will always be questions concerning your experience here on this planet. So that is what it's really talking about. The physical and the spiritual will always have a battle. Okay? And they came unto John and said unto him, Rabbi, which is basically teacher, he that was with thee beyond Jordan, to whom thou bearest witness, behold, the same baptizeth, and all men come to him. Now, every one of us in this world will come to the realization of a true purification that must take place within, where we understand that everything is mental and that everything is psychological, that everything is taking place within. So all man will come to his Christ realization. All man will come to his true salvation, being his self-realization. It doesn't matter where a person might be dwelling right now psychologically. The time will come when he will come to this realization. And that is why many times when you come to self-realization, you will realize how idiotic that you were. You will come to realize that you didn't know anything. You come to realize that you were brainwashed and that you have never think for yourself. But now you are now thinking for yourself and you're seeing the world from a different perspective. Verses 27, John answered and said, a man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. Unless you are ready, nothing would be made plain or made known to you. None can be given to you unless you are ready for it. And so, my brother, my sisters, your intellectual self will never rise to a higher level unless you are open-minded, unless you are willing to question everything and attach to nothing. Let me go on to verses 28. Ye yourself bear me witness that I said I am not the Christ, but that I am sent before him. Your intellectual self, your physical self, your John, okay, will always bear witness that this outer flesh is not your real identity. This outer flesh is not your true Christ self. Your true Christ self is your true essence, your inner self, your invisible self. It is you saying, I am not a human trying to be spiritual. This is you saying that this body is not me. This is just an outer expression of the soul. This is the visible soul. But the invisible soul is the invisible body. And you are confessing that the real you dwells within. Okay? So that's what it means here. Verse 29, it says, he that hath the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom which standeth and heareth him rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled. Not until you start to use the power of your imagination and you see your manifestation or the fulfillment of your words not returning unto you void, but accomplishing that which you send it to and prosper anything where you send it, that you will realize that thoughts become things, that you will realize that everything is mental and that everything is psychological. That is when you will be able to rejoice, because you will understand the mystery of the groom and the bridegroom. You come to understand the secret of the conscious and the subconscious mind. You come to understand the union of your inner self and your outer self, Christ and John. Then it says here in verses 30, he must increase, but I must decrease. You have to realize that as you grow and you expand in consciousness or awareness, that your physical self, your ego self will decrease while your spiritual self will increase. You become more spiritual as you become more aware. You become more spiritual when you accept the Bible as a book of mind science and you understand your physiology and your psychology and your biology, and you walk along with the language of symbology, knowing everything in the Bible, it is symbolic of the body, and that you must come in union of your true identity being your divinity. Okay, so you are the one who would testify how much your life has changed since you start to change your belief system, since you start to believe in yourself, since you start to love yourself, and you start to embrace yourself. You are the one who testify of the change, okay? Because it's all about purification. It's all about cleansing. He that cometh from above is above all. He that is of the earth is earthy, and speaketh of the earth. He that cometh from heaven is above all. It is showing you here that that which is spirit is above all. That which is spirit is your true essence. And so the spirit was always before the body. And you can see it in this human experience whereby the mind controls the body. The body is the slave or the servant to the mind. So my brother, my sisters, when you realize that heaven is above and it's above your shoulder, then you would hold yourself responsible for your thoughts and your actions, and that would begin a cleansing process within you. The purification process will start taking place within you, because you're now immersing yourself in the truth of who you are. You're now experiencing true baptism, because true baptism takes place within. So let me just read back verses 31. He that cometh from above is above all. He that is of the earth is earthy, and speaketh of the earth. Okay? That is just like saying he that is of the carnal mind will always be carnal, and he is of the spiritual mind will always be spiritual. It is like saying a person can be so outwardly minded that they know spiritually good, and a person can become so spiritual minded also that they know outwardly good. You have to have balance. Okay? He that cometh from heaven is above all. You have to understand. He that is above all. You have to understand that you have a command center, and there's a commander in your command center, and in that command center where you have that commander is an invisible commander. It's your invisible self. Verse 32. And that he had seen and heard that he testifieth, and no man receiveth his testimony. You see, when you speak of your salvation being your self-realization, when you speak of your experiences in life, and you speak about how thoughts become things, and since you change your mindset, the changes that you experience in your life, your friends and family members and many others would disagree with you. They did not accept your testimony. And the reason for that, it is because it is an individual thing. Salvation is personal. It's an individual thing, and it takes place within. Okay? So he said, he that hath received his testimony hath set to his seal that God is true. Only you can testify about the truth of how thoughts become things. Only you can testify of the changes that you would experience in your life when you accept your God self. When you believe that you are the only begotten Son. When you believe in yourself. Verses 34. For he whom God hath sent speaketh the word of God, for God giveth not the Spirit by measure unto him. It is showing you here that you are God in flesh, and that if a man has a teaspoon of the seawater and a man has a bucket, both of them have all the components of the seawater. And I'm saying to you, you have all of God within you. It's not that some have more and others have less. You have everything within you. It is saying here that none is higher than any other. Okay, none of us is higher than the other. All of us have the same and one power. All of us use the same power to create our reality consciously. The Father loveth the Son and had given all things unto his hand. Okay, the Father here is speaking of our imagination, our inner self, the creative self of us and the outer self of us. And so all things has been given unto us. But we have to operate the power of the Father, knowing that this body is actually the Son. God having a human experience. That is why any man who denies that God is come in flesh, he's antichrist. He's going against his own self. He's blaspheming because he's allowing self-doubt to take him in, to control him, or to take him over. Okay? So let me read the last verse that says, he that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. You'll never see life, because life is God. And when you do not see that life is God, you'll never see that you and God are one, and that the life in you is the Father and the body is the Son, and you're just having this human experience. And so that is why there are millions, if not billions, of people all around the world who never understand St. John chapter 3 verses 16 that says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Because they believe that he's speaking of a man 2,000 years ago. But I'm here saying to you that he's speaking about you. It's all about you. Thus the reason why I chose to speak on this subject and read all these verses and explain them to you, and encourage you to make sure to get this Bible, the 66 books of Magic the Overcomer's Bible, whereby you can include yourself in the Bible to know that you are the Savior, Lord and Master of your life. So instead of you believing in an idol of 2,000 years ago and find yourself in idolatry and looking outwardly, now you'll be looking inwardly, and you'll be holding yourself responsible for your thoughts and your actions. So my brother, my sisters, as I come to a close, I want to say to you that if this teaching has been very much helpful to you, and it's really helping you to grow and to expand and to understand more about yourself, and if you haven't subscribed already, I'm definitely going to encourage you to subscribe, to like, to comment, or to share this video. Also, if you like to follow me on Instagram, or you like to follow me on TikTok, you can definitely follow me at BlackMadGuru. And if you feel strongly led to support this work, I just want to remind you that there's a PayPal, and the link is always down below. Also, you can be a part of my Patreon community and support this work continually if you feel strongly led to do so. Also, I have a course for $20. It's called The Inner Sun Science and Technology to Create Your Reality Consciously. And it's all about teaching you how to realize, according to Psalms 84:11, that the Lord thy God is a sun, as in a S-U-N, and a shield, and no good thing which he withhold from you. By teaching you how to understand the outer solar system, how it's connected with the inner solar system, with your soul, that you have a light body, and your light's supposed to shine for the world to see when you tap into your ability and tap into the world of creativity. And that is why it's very important for you to understand that your real identity is your divinity, by looking inwardly and understanding the Bible esoterically, metaphysically, and psychologically. Okay, so if you feel strongly led to listen to those videos, I'll definitely encourage you to do so. At this time, I just want to say peace, love you all, out.